So I talked about the Kennedys a lot, of course. I've talked about the Butlers and how they, they all go back to being Lords of Ormond in Ireland, which is in Munster, Ireland, a province of Ireland. Yeah, a lot of families with some different, views seem to come out of there, just saying, especially ones that have become high in the political sector in our country. The one I haven't talked about, which many people have heard of, is the Fitzgeralds. I mean, JFK was named after a Fitzgerald. And of course he would be, because his father married a Fitzgerald. The Fitzgeralds are said to have been more Irish than Irish themselves, than the Irish Ireland than themselves. They too, at one point, just like the Butlers, were at war with the Kennedys here and there. All about wanting control. This is going way back. Okay. But then eventually decided our best bet, especially since we want to throw off the English crown, is to consolidate power. The Fitzgeralds were heavily tied to the Catholic Church, heavily. In fact, they reached out, even, and not just them, but because there was many wars that Munster had, or rebellions against the English crown, okay? And who they would reach out to for help were the kings in France. And because the kings of France all tied to that Catholic crap, okay? So, there's where your problem starts coming in. So we've been told here in America that these kings of England have been so bad. And it's like, the only ones I can find that are really horrible are the ones that were Catholics. Seriously. King Henry VIII, when he placed himself over the churches in Ireland, well, that pissed. And now, to most of us that hear that story, we think, God, what a ruler wanting to be over the church. But then, if you know the Bible, well, the Bible raises up those kings. Say they had every right, just like King James I. He should be the one over the Church of England. God raised him up. God had nothing to do with raising up the Vatican. Nothing. They did that all on themselves. That's why they wear this ugly, huge, huge thing that has this tiara that's like, 5 feet high, okay? Like some Ku Klux Klan hat. All right? They raised themselves up. God had nothing to do with it. And then the biggest problem is they wanted to ease people out of the pagan practices, the human sacrifice practices. Well, we need to ease Ireland out of it. What? And that concerned the kings. And it concerned the kings for good reason, because of the fact that it was the kings that Ireland was known to sacrifice whenever a war was lost, whenever their crops didn't produce like they were supposed to. Ireland would say, we need to sacrifice the king to the goddesses, so for repentance. So that would be concerning to an English king. In fact, it was. And even though, yes, human sacrifice and ritual sacrifice was done in many parts of the world, Ireland and Germany, actually, way back in medieval days, was heavily involved in it. Such as things like this. The Celts practiced human sacrifice extensively. Funerary rites involved the burning of retainers who were imprisoned in a giant wicker men set on fire, sort of like Burning Man. Yeah, that's what this reminds me of. Burning Man's going on right now, and God is giving them a punishment again. All wet, all their feet are turning to clay. Because it's all over TikTok. Anyway, there were many different ritual killing methods for each of the gods, offerings for everything from drowning victims, hanged, flogged to death, and then this one I just mentioned, to ritual decapitation was common. This was in the Celtic practices. So can you see why the kings of England were concerned? The Germanic people and Scandinavian were another group that were heavily involved in this kind of stuff. Gaelic human sacrifice, especially in ancient Ireland, was a ritual practice connected to Celtic religious and societal beliefs. It notably involved the ritual killing of kings who were held responsible for the prosperity of the land and the people. When things went wrong, like bad weather, disease, or military losses, the king was sometimes sacrificed as a form of appeasement to the goddesses of the land and to ensure future fertility and success. So, if you're an English king, that's a problem. Yeah, okay? Rightfully so. These ritual killings acted as a form of decommissioning the king, often involving excessive death methods such as stabbing, throat cutting, or mutilation like nipple cutting. This was not considered torture, but symbolic acts. Cutting nipples, for example, indicated the king's loss of power. And then I already showed yesterday about the bog bodies. And then there's the historical, what I just showed, well, this picture of the Wicker Man, a large effigy said to have been used by Druids to burn sacrificial victims. Through the primary account comes from Roman sources such as Julius Caesar. Okay, so the Gaelic practices of human and kingship sacrifice did indeed concern the English crown, particularly during periods of English attempts to assert control over Ireland and its Gaelic population. English rulers and administrators often viewed these Gaelic ritual practices as barbaric and emblematic of savage culture. Yes, absolutely. So then what the Irish did was say, we have this potato famine, right, from God. Right, God. There was a plague, all this stuff, yeah. And you blamed the English crown. Bad idea. Bad. Because if you are truly a Christian, which, doubtful, but, in more modern day, then you should realize that what was God's message sending you people in Munster? Back then. Saying do not keep following the Catholic Church. It is taking you into a path of destruction. But they continued to hold it up, especially the Fitzgeralds, especially the Kennedys, especially the Butlers. Okay, do you see a pattern here? Because if any of those people that claim that they're about Christianity recognized that the potato famine was God saying, I want Ireland to get off the course it's on, that's the message that should have been taken away. Instead of, they've played this holy victimhood crap over it. And, of course, all of these people came here, the Kennedys, the Butlers, and I'm not saying everybody that's a Butler, everybody that's Kennedy. No, don't get it confused here. But there's a certain sect, especially from Munster. Okay, John Brennan, who was the Obama-appointed CIA director, Limerick County in Munster. All going back, seeming to have the same sort of mindset. Not caring about America at all. Can give some bullshit good speeches, but that's about it. The deeds show something totally different. Because what their intention was, what do you think their intention was? They wanted revenge against the Protestants. So they came here and the Catholic Church backed them up. The Catholic Church had the audacity to act like they could rule over the English kings, and the good English kings, King James I, King Henry VIII, and there's some other ones in there. They were like, no, you are not over us. We come from a lineage that God raised up, whether you like it or not. Why no one said this to these people over at the Vatican? Like, just stay in your little Holy Roman Empire there and leave everybody else alone. But no, of course, they couldn't do that. So instead of the Irish realizing that the potato famine wasn't the English crown's fault, and trying to come here then and play like the poor Kennedys were discriminated against and the poor Catholics, please. There's enough history, actual factual evidence to prove that you people are your own worst enemies.